Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So I'm going to create a journal page, and this time I'm going to create it with a little stamp that I've bought out to go with my Christmas range, but it's not necessarily Christmas. Now when I've been doing my Christmas inspiration, I've been showing you lots of ideas using my florals with the Christmas, and lots of different ideas of coordinating, including the vase stencil and using lots of other stamps and stencils with the recent release that was released in July, the Christmas one. Now, whilst I've been doing these videos, I've been sort of thinking, oh, I wish I'd got a little tree. Oh, I wish I'd got tiny penguins. And I kept thinking this, even though I've got penguins that they'll be discontinued, that I had out with All and Create, they're larger ones. I thought, no, I need smaller than that. And the advantage of being under my own brand now and releasing myself, I can release whatever I want, and it's wonderful. So now I've released just this little stamp here to go with my Christmas range. Now the lovely Lucy, who's on my design team, she wanted some wording to go with the Christmas range, so I added that to the A7 stamp set. I wanted some trees and little penguins, so I thought, well, I'll just create a stamp set. So here we have Winter Delights TE23, and if I turn this over, you can see I've got these little penguins here. One's got a little heart in its body. We've got the two trees. I've got the little robin as a silhouette, and then these words, you're not necessarily meant to read them clearly. It's meant to be a background to go with all these and your other Christmas ones. And the idea of this stamp set is to extend the Christmas ones that I bought out in July. And the idea is you can use these all year round. The bird, these, and also this text. The text says, cold, crisp evenings, bare tree branches, twinkling lights, the beauty of winter. This season brings a special silent charm to everything around us. So that's the text you can use in the background, and it can just be hidden in the background, just touches of it in the background. But I just needed something more to extend this Christmas release I had in July. So I've just bought this out on its own because I can. So this is now available on my website. If you would like this stamp, it's now available. And at the moment, it's only on my website because I've literally just bought it out. And I bought it out off the cuff just because I felt like it, because I wanted a few extra bits and pieces. So let's create a journal spread. And can you believe it? I've been going on about I'm going to buy some brushes. So I bought some little fine brushes because I need some fine work. I've got a long, is that called a rigger or something? Yeah, a rigger, and some little brushes. And then I bought this large round brush because I know this will hold the water quite nicely. So what I've got, I'm going to take the brush, and what I love about the round ones like this is it's a reasonable quality one. I think it's a size 18 by De La Rowney, and I can just add some water, and it holds plenty of water. The brush holds lots of water, which is just wonderful, which is exactly what I want. I want it to hold lots of water. I've got a jar of water just on the side here. And what I've got then, let me just grab the lid so that you can see. I haven't got many watercolours. I've just got this set of Koi watercolours. And I'm just going to use my watercolours here. And really what you should do is have your hands free, really, Tracy, so that you can pick things up. That's what you should do. Oh, so that you're not faffing. We've got little palettes here. And what I should also do is spritz my watercolour that I'm going to use with water. Now I'm using my journal that is just over 5 inches in width by just over 8 inches in length. And has that colour come from the previous page? Must have done, didn't spot that. So my brush is wet, I've spritzed, and I'm going to use, let me just lift this up, some of these sort of dark blues here. And I'm just going to go with it, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the blue. And I'm just going to add plenty of water just so that moves. And this brush is great for that. So you can use whatever you want just to add a darkish blue, wherever you wish. If you want to add a dark blue, and again, just to give, what I love about watercolours, I don't know much about watercolours. For me, it's just I need them to do what I need them to do. That's it. I don't do anything specialised. So I've got the water on there, and what I can do is I can just spritz the water so that that moves where I want it to. And the journal that I'm using is a watercolour journal. It's I always forget the name of them, hang on. This is the journal. It's a moleskin journal that I got from Amazon. It's got watercolour pages in there, 200 GSM. But because it's got the watercolour pages, it takes watercolour, it moves beautifully, so it's perfect. Now what I can do, let's just move these out of the way so I've at least got a bit of space. You can do this with your oxides if you wish, or whatever you've got. And then I can just move the ink just down a little bit, up a little bit, so you can have it so that it moves. And if you want it to move a little bit more, spritz your ink with more water and it will just move. I don't want it to move all the way down the page, but just a little bit. There we go. So just a little bit down that page. And then what I'm going to do is just where I've got the moisture in the crevice of the page, I'm just going to mop that up a little bit. There we go. And I've just put the copy paper underneath just to give a little protection to the page underneath. So again, I'm going in with the watercolour, and I can just add a little bit more darkness with that colour, and it moves beautifully because I've got the moisture on there. If you're finding that it's not moving, all you need to do is spritz with water and just add a little bit more, and you can tip it up just so that you've got a little bit more movement. So sort of on the top of the page and on the bottom of the page, just so that you've got those blues on there. Now you'll keep the vibrancy more if you don't dry and you allow that to dry naturally. However, when you're demonstrating, that's impossible. I can't sit here and let it dry naturally because you'll be waiting forever. So we're just going to give this page a dry. What I do love about watercolours is the movement and the vibrancy that you can get. It's just wonderful. But when you're using watercolours, you really do need to make sure you've got the correct card. Now obviously if you're going to use your oxide inks, you're going to get that oxidisation, that cloudiness, which is all part and parcel of the oxide inks. That's the whole point of them. Let's just move that a little bit more. So just give this a little bit of a dry. And I'm actually really enjoying my journal at the moment, to use my journal the way I want to use my journal. Not necessarily in the sense of the word of journaling, but just for me, it's my sort of experimental, practicing, just enjoying book. It just allows me just to enjoy that process. And you can see how much water I've used and how it takes a while for that to dry. So let's just give this, you can dab this, obviously you can dab these areas, but I quite like it if I just keep a few of those really dark areas on the page, and I don't have to worry about the curving of the paper, because when you close the journal it's flattened, so that's absolutely fine. Just give that a lovely dry. Just take your time. Sometimes we get a little bit impatient, and you can see because I've not dabbed this with kitchen roll, if I'd have dabbed it, I wouldn't have got these two little dark areas, and I just think it adds to the page. What have we got underneath? Oh, there's nothing underneath, so that's not too bad, because there's no designs underneath anyway. And I haven't got half the product out I said I was going to get out, but there you go. But you can still see the moisture in the page. But I'm trying to stop myself from dabbing with the kitchen roll, just so that it just adds to the whole effect. And what I love is you can then spritz with water, and you can still move that watercolour. You can still move it because there's plenty of ink there. And obviously if you use your heat tool, look, it moves. That's why if you let it dry naturally, it's obviously a totally different effect. You can move it. I could use my little poofer and move that. So I've got the little dark area now, so I can just dab that little bit dry. There we go. And we've got nice crinkly pages, just lovely. Now I think Salty Ocean will go nicely with this. You know, you can't make it up. I always think that I've got the colour that I want in the right place. So I think Salty Ocean will go nicely with that. So I've got my blending brushes, and then I'm going to take, I've actually got them back in stock. Yay! So let's grab, so we've got the SS6 bauble. I've actually got that back in stock. It's sold out, so we've got it back in stock. Now if you want to, you can cover the edges of your pages. You can either just use a piece of paper if you don't want to hold it in place, just to protect the edges, or you can hold it in place with low tack tape. So I'm going to take the Salty Ocean. Let's give that a really good sort of application of ink, and decide, let's decide where you want your bauble. So shall we have it sort of there? So I can protect the edges just randomly like so. Just a piece of copy of paper. Now if you don't want to hold your piece in place, just use some low tack tape. And I love how the salty ocean works rather nicely with that colour of watercolours. I'm then going to use prize ribbon just to add a little bit to the edges of the prize ribbon. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that just to the edges, just to give a little bit of depth. There we go. Just to give that a little bit of depth. I'm then going to just keep that in place and just spritz with a little bit of water. Just let it do its thing. If you wanted to, you could have another card that is 4 by 6 inches, and you could then place that on the top like I'm doing with my copier paper, just to show you. So you could have another piece of white card and you would have another bauble design on the top. It will give you another image that you could create a project with. I'm then going to just dab my project. There we go. Just love it. I absolutely love it. So I've spritzed it with water. You've got the watercolour on there and you've got the bleached out areas as well. The thing with the, where's my little water brush? The thing with the Distress Oxides is I can take my water and I can still, just take that off, I can still make, great, there's no water on there. So I can still make it react with the water. You can still keep adding bleached out areas with the water. So I can dot this water on here, and because it's oxide, it will still continue to react. So I do like that also about the oxides, is that you can still keep playing with the ink and it still will move. Let's just leave those in there, and let's just leave that for a couple of seconds again, just so that the water reacts with the ink. You can also add water. If it hadn't dried, it would react more, adding the water to the watercolour. But you can just add. But don't forget, I've dried this. Let's get some clean kitchen roll just so that you can see. Let's take the kitchen roll and let's just dab this area of watercolour. You can still see that you can still lift little bits of the colour. Now watch when I touch the oxide. Look, lots of colour you can lift up. It just works really nicely. Let's move this out of the way and let's lift a little bit just so that you can see. You can see where I've got bleached out areas just on that bauble. Just works really nicely. So what I'm going to do now is just give that a little bit of a dry, because we've got quite a bit of moisture on there. So let's give that a bit of a dry. Just so that we're not trying to stamp on soaking wet pages. Right. Which one am I after now? Holly and berries. So I'll take the holly and berries, which is TE21. I try to keep the acetate in the wallet, then I'm not spending forever looking for them. So we've got the holly and the berries, and I'm going to take the berries. But if you wanted to create another project, doesn't that work quite well? It really works well. Just like that. It works so well. So I'm going to take the berries. Let's move that out of the way. And then I'm going to stamp them in the blue. I just want to check. What's the barley blue like? Just out of interest. I'm just testing. That's too green. Let's test the Arctic. Just out of interest. If not, I'll just stamp with my oxide. That's why I like testing colours next to it. You can see that the barley blue, you won't believe, but it's like a greeny blue, and that's more blue. So it is important just to test your colours. So I'm going to use Arctic for the VersaFine Clair. So let's use the Arctic. And I'm just using the berries and inking with the Arctic. Now what I do need, which I nearly forgot, let's grab which is harder than you think, because just grabbing my older diary, just because the pages are a bit squishy underneath. So I'm just going to add a hardback book just underneath, just to give me a sturdy base to stamp onto. So I'm going to add, there we go, I'm just going to add the berries just on top of the watercolour. It doesn't matter about your branch because you can extend that afterwards. So I'm just using the Arctic, which works quite well. Let's just turn this around a little bit. And by having that sturdy base underneath, that really helps. Of course, you can use your second generation. The Arctic is a beautiful colour and is working nicely with that Arctic colour. There we go. Just need a few berries on there. Let me just, so we'll put some white text on. Yes, I have to talk to myself a little bit, it goes in better. And what I shouldn't do is put these stamp sets down. I didn't put, do you know, I despair with myself at times. Let's move that diary. That's because it's here on top of my page, because I thought it would be easy to find. That didn't work then, did it? I've got my berries. We'll do a little bit of faffing. Let me just check. Right, so I'm just going to add a little bit of the blue ink and just extend the line a little bit. So I'm just using the Arctic ink just so that, obviously if you've got a blue pen, just extend it with your blue pen. I'm just going to extend it with the stamp I've got. Let me just clean those hands. Obviously, we've got a bit of work to do on there yet. So now I want to incorporate this stamp set. So what I'm going to do is take, where's that little bit of torn paper? Do you remember I tore these just to cover the edge of my stencil? Got a little bit of a torn edge here. So now I'm going to go into the bauble and just add a little bit of an edge. Let's just add a little bit more of that edge, just so they've got something to stand on. So I've just got a little bit of shading there. I don't want it to be too overpowering. Now these little, I don't know what I've put that diary away for, I'm going to need it. These little penguins, they're just lovely. They're so little, just love them. Right, so which way are you and you are? So do I want that one or do I want you? I am going to talk to myself as well. Have the little one here. So I'm just going to have my little penguin here. I'm just going to just have that under again, just to give me the stability so that I'm not stamping onto a squishy page that's got lumps and bumps on there. So we're just using a black ink. And just so that it's got no lump and bumps on there. And I am just going to stamp one at a time. And these penguins are a lot smaller. So they're a lot smaller, designed for going inside our baubles, our tweed stencil, etc. So they're a lot smaller. Oh, sorry. Doesn't take much to make me happy. Cute, cute. These are such a cute size, and this is just what I wanted, is this cute size. Small things amuse small minds. That's me all over. And I'm just going to use the other piece of copy of paper, or same piece of copy of paper, just to blot the imagery. Look at my little birdies. Penguins even, look at them. I love them because they're just the right size, which is just what I want. I want them that size. Now, let me just see. So, have we got a... I have as well. I've got a little mask that I've cut out just to go over there. How organised. And then I'm going to take my little tree stamp. So the bigger one isn't that tiny. And the little one's tiny, but this one isn't as tiny. This is just love the scale. Right. So I'm going to use Morning Mist, Versafine Clair, and I'm going to take the tree. I've got the grey ink, and now I've got the bauble. I nearly dropped that then. What do I say to you about not holding it over? So I'm going to place part of the tree just in to the bauble. Let's lift that up. And let's just come down a little bit, and then you can add a little bit of the tree. So let me just stamp the top of the tree there. Can you see I've missed a little bit there? But this tree fixes it really nicely. So you've got a little bit of the tree here. I don't know what I'm moving that for. And we're going to add to the other side, make sure I've got that morning mist. Let's just put a piece of copy paper down here. And I do love a good faff. So let's have this a little bit taller. And the morning mist just means it's a little bit softer for the trees, and the penguins are in black, so we're more in the foreground. There we go. Sometimes what I find is when I'm talking to you, sometimes I forget to press because I'm so engrossed in the process. I just love it. Absolutely love that. So let's, where's my little branch again? So let's just see if there's any ink on here left. Oh, I'm going to keep moving this now. Let's just see if there's any ink left. I'm just wondering about a bit of second generation. So I'm going to take the tree, faff like mad, dab off the excess. You too can faff like me as well. Obviously, if you hold your mask in place, it won't be a problem. So I'm just, let's just add a little bit. There we go, it adds like a shadow. There we go. So we've got the trees in the background, and what I'm trying to do is like that the penguins are surrounded sort of by the trees and you can see them through. So let's just add this here. So I'm going to take the morning mist again. That hang on a minute. Oh, it is. Do you know when I convinced myself then that that was black? Wasn't. It was fine. There we go. So we've got little shadows as well. And then, so I'm just messing with the tree stamp really. In other words, I'm just playing. So I want second generation now, again. So I'm taking the morning mist. I'm going to just stamp off the excess, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of a tree, just second generation, not pressing. That's brilliant. So I've not pressed too much, so I've just got a little bit of the second generation for the tree. If I add some touches of white, you can maybe see a little bit better. Just as we add little touches of the white to our little birds. Where's my, what was I thinking then? I'm going to add some touches of just white, just to the trees, just a little bit, just to give them of a wintry feel. Just add a touch of white for the tops of those branches. Just add a little bit of white just to there. I'm just going to take, which one did I do the blending with? There's that. Wasn't this one? Oh, it was this one. So I'm going to take a little bit of, where's my, these are my brushes for my VersaFine Claire inks. So I'm going to take the Arctic, just going to pick up a little bit of the Arctic ink. I'm just going to add a little bit of the Arctic ink. There we go, just a little bit of the Arctic ink, just so that you can see that. And then I just want a little bit of a circular cutout. I don't think I've got one small enough. Oh, I have. So I've got these cutouts here, these little cutouts. And I'm just going to use the Arctic ink. I don't want it around about there. I'm just going to use the Arctic ink and just add a little bit. Less is more. Don't go in too heavy. Let's just lift that up. Oh yes. So don't go in too heavy. Just go in nice and lightly. There we go. And that brush is saved for the VersaFine Claire. So then I don't mix my inks, so it's saved for that. And then if I use a brush, I don't know whether I'll be able to lift some of the ink. Let's just grab my kitchen roll. Let me just, I am going to faff a bit just to lighten this area here. Just so it lightens that a little bit. And because it's me all over, I am going to add a little bit more darkness around the edges with the Arctic. Just so that you've got that. That's better. Just so it stands out a little bit more. That's a sort of an inch paper punch that I've punched that out with. Let's move this out of the way. So that's about of an inch paper punch, I think, that I've done with that. So then I want to take my little books again, just to give me some sturdiness. And then I'm going to take the other penguin. I'm going to take my black ink. You have to just make sure that you take that black ink and not the grey. I'm good like that. Let's move this up a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to add a little friend down here. There we go. So I'm just going to add a little friend down there. We're going to add shading and different things. Let's add a little bit of white. Just to areas. There we go. Obviously we're going to add lots of shading and different things. So let's move that. I'm going to add a little bit of white because I've stamped onto the blue page now, and we want to lift that a little bit just so that you've got those touches of white on there. Now I want to add a little bit of white as well. Can you see? Just lovely. So let's just sort of add a little bit of white, sort of. Let's just smudge that a little bit, just to give a little bit of white on there. And we want to add shading down here as well. So I'm going to add my anti-static bag because there's lots of moisture in this page now, lots of moisture, lots of ink. So let's add some of that anti-static bag, and then we can use our text stamp about the winter in the background. And there's nothing, the words say exactly what you want them to say. Oh dear me, is it that way? Yeah. If you're unsure about your stamp, so if you're unsure which way, let's grab a Sharpie pen. So we'll take a Sharpie pen. We'll just take our copy of paper, ink the stamp. Actually, we'll just use it off the block. Take your stamp, test it on a piece of copy of paper, like so, and you can see that's the right way. But if it gets really messy and dirty, just place a little arrow on the back. Let's move this out of the way. So that, you know, when you've used lots of ink and it gets very black, you can't really see which way up your stamp is. Well, now I've got a little black arrow on there, on the back. I can always see which way the stamp goes. Okay. So we don't want the black ink on there because I'm going to go in with my Versamark ink. So you don't really want the black ink on there. Just dab off a little bit of that moisture, and I'm now going to use my Versamark ink, and it's a background. So because it's a background, it doesn't matter about perfection in stamping. So let's add a little. So it's up to you. You haven't got to have perfect stamping. Doesn't matter if you've got little bits missing. Now I can't see where I'm going, so I instantly need to tip that embossing powder on there. There we go. Let's tip off the excess. And if there's a little bit of embossing that you don't want on your project. So for instance, say I don't really want that there, you can just rub away anything that you don't want. So I've got the embossing on there, and I can sort of see, so it's entirely up to you if you use your acrylic block or whether you use the stamp as is off the acrylic block. So I'm going to add this here. I think I can sort of see where that is. So you don't have to press too hard. And I think what we'll do is when we've added this embossing, we'll just take a look at where we're at. And at this stage, because you haven't embossed anything, you haven't physically melted the embossing, now is your opportunity to move anything that you don't particularly want. Have I got, I don't know whether I've got a little bit there and I've missed it. Yes, I missed it. This is why it's your opportunity now to decide exactly what you want in the embossing. So if there's anything you don't want, so I don't want that little bit there on the penguin. There we go. So let's give that a heat, and just heat your heat tool up. Just give it a little bit of time to heat up. It's not very good for you to see, but obviously once it goes white, you can see that a lot better. And if I heat it up now, I can see whether I actually want any more embossing or not. So I've got the white embossing in there, and that has sort of diffused the tree in the background, and it's gone right into the background now. So it's sort of diffused that. But obviously you can't see this blue here, but we can sort that out. So what we can do now is pick up, let's pick up a smaller brush rather than the huge one. So now I can just pick up a little bit of this watercolour. This is watercolour that I'm using. The same watercolour I used at the top, a little bit darker. And what that's doing is bringing out the embossed detail where we've embossed the text. And it's a little bit darker. So it's just bringing out that text a little bit. So there we go. And if you're worried that you've got straight edges, just use your water brush and you can soften those edges just with water. Just drag them out so they're softened. But I actually like how this is a little bit richer in colour. So I'm actually going to go all the way up here. And just add a little bit more. And what I like is, you know that VersaFine Clair, as I put this watercolour on, it's going down into the background. And don't worry, we're going to extend, we're going to bring the bauble back up. There we go. I've hidden the tree quite a bit on the right hand side because I'd got to the stage where I thought, I want to, maybe I just want it hidden a bit. Let me just give this a dry now. Now you've got that embossing on there, so please remember you can't dry too much. That's why I'm going around and wafting, so I'm moving that heat tool constantly just so that it doesn't affect the embossing, and we'll highlight that a little bit more. So if you wanted to, you can add a little bit of colour. Now we just need a fine, I can't believe I've actually got a fine brush, that's just miracles. So I'm trying to be good and remembering to clean them. So I've got a very fine brush and I'm going to take a little bit of, have I actually got any there? Bear with me. So I'm just spritzing my watercolour. I've got the tiniest brush ever. And I've got a little bit of yellow on there. And you can just add a little bit of yellow. The watercolour is highly pigmented. So I've got the finest brush, which is just wonderful for a change. So we can just blend that out. Now, what are you having to remember? You've got oxide ink under here. So just be careful not to use too much. I've got a little bit of orange now. Then I'll add water. Take the excess off. And I'm just going to add that little bit of yellow again. Use my water. Take off the excess. There's hardly any here. Because it's such a fine brush, there's not much on there. And I've forgotten this poor little one here. Oh, that, you know why that is. I don't know why I'm bothering doing this, because I was going to cut this one out, I decided. So I don't need to worry about that. I'm actually remembering to do my brushes. So we'll grab a piece of card. And we're going to stamp this one onto a piece of card. I've never known anybody faff as much as I do. Take that piece of card, stamping in the black, and then we'll take that little, let's move that one that sweeps me. Now we'll add a little bit of the yellow, of the watercolour. And it's surprising even how, with that little tiny brush, how much moisture it holds. A little bit of orange. And even how much colour it holds. Just going to dilute that out a little bit. There we go. And if you want to take a little bit, so it's just a little bit more diffused, just dab that out a little bit. And then we're going to cut this little one out. Obviously you don't have to cut him out, you can just leave him on the page like so. And you should know by now how long it takes me to create a project. Just cutting his little foot out. There we've got him. He's just going to stand out a little. I can't tell you how I love the sizes of these. What are you doing? Right, let's just add. And for me, this is why I have a journal. Because if I want to faff and change things 50 times, I can do it. And you can just take from the demonstration whatever you want to take from the demonstration. Now I just want to stamp the tree for a minute. This is how my ideas develop. I often change things. I've shown you ways you could have kept it without the white embossing. And I love doing that. I love showing you how you can just change things up. I love it. And how an idea develops. Now I know there's some of you, because I know it's pummeled in, you know, I don't want to fussy cut, it's too much effort, then don't fussy cut. You don't have to do that. But if you don't like fussy cutting, that doesn't matter. You can have your project how you want. But there are lots of people like me who also love fussy cutting, and we love the elements that it gives to a design. And I think we should just embrace art in whatever form and however somebody enjoys creating. So I'm just going to go around this now. And when, you know, I'm doing this off the cuff, and what happens is when I'm creating, other ideas come into my head, sort of lots of things like what if I did this, what if I did, what if. And the what ifs are what get you to experiment. And it doesn't matter if there's a few mistakes, particularly in your journal, because that's entirely, for me, that's what a journal is all about. I just love the experimentation. And you'll have to excuse me because it is very difficult to keep in camera when you're doing cutting out, because it's just natural to want to pull that. Let me just get rid of some of this card. It's just natural to want to pull that towards you. I'm just leaving a little white border. Or if this was on the edge of your card as well, you could just trim out this edge. My mind's just working overtime like it normally does. But when I was this is the problem. When I was creating my designs, you know, as I was creating my cards, my journal pages in the last few weeks, this is when I think, oh, I just could do with a tree. Oh, I could just do, but it's great now because I can just do it. So I don't have to wait. I don't have to be told no. It's just wonderful. Let's just cut that bit off. There we go. When you see me cut bits of card off, that's because it is far easier to cut out with less card. And what I love about my YouTube is that I can do a whole mix of videos, short, layered, long, it doesn't matter. And what you can do, because I'm experimenting, you can take away from the demonstration whatever you want from the demonstration. As long as it inspires you to use your stamps, that's the main thing. But I do love cut out pieces. And I'm not a big fan of, let's rush this, let's do this. Oh, you don't have to do this. Creating is just enjoying the process wherever it takes you. No rules. As long as you enjoyed it. So I'm not going to cut out the grassy bit. I'm just going to cut out the stem like that. So now I've got a lovely sort of tree I can add. Where does the time go? And now I've got the text in the background and I can add the tree here because I wanted the bauble in the background and I was thinking, oh, if I just added a tree here. See, honestly, I am dangerous because I'll just go on like this forever. We're going to emphasise the little bauble a little bit more before we do. Let's grab the stencil. I can't even see the stencil. Let me just grab, let's grab the stencil. I can actually do that with the grey ink tents actually. Have I got the grey ink tents out? So let's grab our grey ink tents. Now don't forget you've got watercolour underneath here, you've got distress oxides under here. So just remember that. So I'm really going to emphasise this side of the bauble. There we go. Can you believe I've got a jar of water here? So I've got my kitchen roll just in case I've got too much. And I'm just going to blend that out. And if you find it's running away with you a bit, well, just remove some of the water. I want that to be reasonably dark. There we go. Let's just grab my tree. Do I want it down here? Do I want it there? No, I don't. I want it there. Like so. I am such a nuisance. Or do I want it there? Or do I want it to put it... See, this is what I'm like all the time. You see, I like it there, so it's outside. But what I'm thinking now is, I like it there, and then I can just use a white pen. So I like it there, and I can have a white pen. Where's the bauble gone? Hang on a minute. Nothing like making something difficult for yourself. So let's just cut that little bit of the tree away. And then I'm going to add this here, like so. Do you think I'm going to stick this down now, or else I'm going to be like this forever? If you didn't want to do that, where's the bit I've cut away? You can easily just stick that back like so, so that it was stuck back together if you decided you didn't like it. I am going to be faffing for England. No, I'm adding it like that. Right, so let's just add. I've given you lots of options now. But the tree can be used on its own as well. Nothing to do with Christmas. And when you see some of the design team makes, you will see how you don't have to have it as Christmas, and it's just wonderful. So we just take the ink tents again, just so the edge of the tree is not white. There we go. Just take that water again. Just blend that out. just so it's a little bit darker. There we go. I do hope you take as long as I do. And it's funny because when you look through the camera, it always looks better through the camera. I don't know what it is, just looks so much better. That's better. That's much, much better. So what I'm going to do now is take the, you'll be lucky if you can remember where you've put it, Tracy. I was going to say I'm going to take the text stamp, which nobody knows where I've put. There it is on my diary. And I'm going to add a little bit of stamping in the, where's my icy colour? My Arctic. Let's move this all out of the way so you can see. So we're just going to add some stamping with the Arctic. Just to give a little bit of the bluish tone in stamping as well. I'm going to take that off the acrylic block, just so I can add little touches of the stamping as well over the top of the embossing, just so that our little penguin is involved. There we go. Just love the little touches of blue stamping as well, which I will lift it all up so that you can see this. I'm going to take the white pen, the white Posca pen, and this is my time to spend with you, just so we can experiment together. Let's just add a little bit of white there. Let's just take a little bit of shading. Just add a little bit of a shadow there. Oh, nearly forgot this little chap here. He needs a little bit of shading. Look how it moves on that page. Just wonderful. Because it's watercolour, it just works really nicely. So we have a little bit of a shadow going down the outside. Wow, that's, I don't think you need that much moisture, Tracy. Just add a little bit of a shadow around the outside. I sound like I'm singing a song, around the outside. There we go. And then I want some wording. So let's put some of this back. So we've got our text. I know which way it goes now because I've added the arrow. We've got the tree. So let's add the tree. And I want to add a sentiment. So let's go to the, that's that one, holly and berries. And we've got with warmest wishes, or you can even add Christmas. So we'll add with warmest wishes. It's up to you whether you want to add it to the page or you want to cross it out. There we go. Or whether you want to cut it out, not cross it out, cut it out. So let's just add my little book underneath, just so that it's nice and sturdy. I could have put that on a lot straighter with my eyes shut. So let's add with warmest wishes. Let's move this here. It. You don't really think I was going to do a short video, do you? And it was going to be over and done with in. No. Journal pages for me sometimes will take a little bit longer, just for the process, the thought process, and everything else. So you do need to remember that. We'll just blend this out. Again, the card is fantastic. It just reacts how you want it to react. And it just works beautifully. There we go, with warmest wishes. So now, let me just show you what we've got so far. Just absolutely love that. Really love it. With warmest wishes. And he's looking at his friends in the bauble. Just love that. So what we're going to do then, let's take the book back up again. So I now need to grab stamp set TE22, which is this one, TE22 Christmas Wishes. Let me just place the acetate back, because I've got so many stamps out that it's going to be the little one, the little stamp. You're going to take that one. And then I can use my VersaFine Claire Arctic. So we'll take the Arctic. Can you see what I'm doing? Yes. Take the Arctic ink, add that Arctic, and then take a little bit of your, which is that side, Morning Mist, and add a little bit of the grey. And then I'm going to add that bauble there. So that's with the Arctic and the grey. Now let me show you. Can you just see the shape? You can just see the shape at the moment. So I'm going to grab the very, do you remember the very, let me pick it up for you. The very fine brush here. I mean, look, can you see how fine that is? Look how fine that brush is. So I'm just going to grab that brush, and then I'm going to grab a little bit of the dark blue. Now I'm reaching over, hoping that I've got the, and what I'm going to do is just go around the bauble. Just using my watercolours. You can use your oxide. You've seen me do it with my oxides. And there's a permanent ink underneath. Oh, what a game changer it is having some fine brushes. I don't know why I've left it so long, but I have. So now, why I'm keeping this book here, I don't know. So now the bauble, let me lift it up for you, is beginning to pop a little more. So that's just what we want. It's beginning to pop. Let's take a little bit more of that watercolour, and it does not matter if you're using watercolour or you're using your oxides. Watercolour, little bit more vibrant, and obviously you haven't got that oxidization. So let me show you the difference. So you've got that bauble there. Let's take the Arctic again. So take the Arctic, ink with the Arctic, then add a little bit of shading with your grey, Morning Mist. And if I place that down here, let me show you. So it's very pale on the page initially. That's only because you've got that blue underneath. If you ain't got the blue underneath, you could just leave it like that. But if I add a little bit more dimension and depth with a little bit of the blue watercolour, it comes to life. Just go around and just add that blue, and this fine brush, game changer, especially for somebody who said she's going to get brushes forever and hasn't. I'm going to add a little bit more blue around this edge, and even though it's got that grey on, it's permanent, so the permanent ink pad won't move. And the advantage of having such a fine brush, guess what I'm going to do now? Excuse me. Excuse me. The advantage of having such a fine brush is that I can really go in and add a really dark edge, and it really works. Whereas before, I could get the dark edge, but it's not quite as easy as this with this super fine brush. All I've got to remember now is that I don't leave it in glue or paint or something like that. Hence, I actually bought a jar of water. And I can just go in. Now do remember, you know, it's the card that also makes a big difference. So if I lift this up now, oh, you can see it instantly. Look at now what you can see, the definition in them baubles. They stand out so much more. Don't they work just beautifully? Let me see if I've got a blue pen. Don't think I've got a blue pen. So what I'm going to do is, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use the watercolour going to pick up a little bit of that blue. I'm going to draw my own just from the bauble. There we go. Let's do the other bauble as well. Again, I can just bring a little bit of that blue, just so that that's got a little bit more definition. And you can see how much work my card needs to do when you look how many layers I've put on this page. I've gone in and I've gone in, constantly going in. So let's just pick. I'm enjoying this page so much, and I can tell I'm enjoying this page so much because I'm going in all the time. And I'm going to add a little bit more blue here, just so it's a little bit more vibrant. I can always tell when I'm enjoying something. But look how we've gone from a blank piece of paper. There we go. So if we take our Posca pen. We're going to add some splatters. If you want to steer clear of your sentiment, then just be careful, or just put a piece of card over the top. So just be aware, obviously you've got your sentiment on there, and if you want to put a thin piece of card over the top, you can do. Just going to add a little bit of shading, which, to be honest, you would add before you added the white splatters. I do like the fact with the watercolour paper it just moves so easily. Just in a little bit of shading, and you can just dab if you've just added a little bit too much. Then we'll just take our white pen. I know, who am I kidding? Trying to add white pen to something that is soaking wet. I'm going to do it anyway. There we go. We added, I can see this is one of them pages I'll just faff with forever. Let's just add a little touch of white down there. And that's what I like about the journal, because you've got an idea for a card where you could just take little bits from it. You don't have to create the whole journal page. What I'm going to do then is let's just place this bauble back. I'm then going to take the holly. I'm just going to faff for England like you do. Let me see how that's going to need the book. It's very squishy up there. Very squishy indeed. Let me just see if I can open the page a little bit. There we go. I'm going to ink the holly with the morning mist. I'm just going to add a little bit of the holly just to the page. There we go. That's better. It just gives definition to the top of that page. And I'm going to add a little bit she says, at an awkward angle. I need to ink a little bit more. That's why you ink the whole thing, because you can never judge where you're going to, well, let me rephrase that. Tracy can't judge where she's putting everything. Not you, me personally. Now let me show you. So can you see where we've got it just going over the edge here? Well, we want that finished off properly, don't we? And this is where the holly on its own comes in. So I'm going to put this on my finger, like so. I'm just going to turn my ink pad the wrong way. So I've got it on my finger, and my finger is now my acrylic block. so I can just finish it off perfectly. So just adding that to my finger, and it looks totally finished now, rather than just having those holly leaves just sort of not doing much. So we'll just take our white again, and we're going to add the white to the holly leaves. And that's what I love also with having the time to really think about what I want from stamp sets. Really is an advantage that I don't have to be to certain time scales, because then that means that just like now, when I decide I want another stamp to go with my Christmas range, I can just do it, and it just works really nicely. There we go. Let me show you now. So now I've got the berries on there, and I've got the holly on there, and it just works so nicely. I absolutely love it now. And that's starting from a blank page. So I hope you've enjoyed that inspiration. I hope you love the new little stamp. And I'll see you all soon with another video, probably with the new stamp. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.